the last time we talked, um, we didn't even have a Walker Howard yet, and it was just Jackson Dart and two walk-on backups. Now, good walk-ons. Now, I'm not saying they're not good, but they're not what we expected them to be. And then Walker Howard commits, and everybody's excited. By the way, anybody that can see Walker Howard's huddle film, I recommend anybody go watch that. Absolutely unbelievable. He's essentially Matt Corral. That's what this kid is, tools wise. And then Spencer Sanders, for some reason, decides, hey, I'm going to throw my lot in instead of going over to Auburn or wherever else. We're going to make this room absolutely a bear. And now the spring is going to be a war. I was sitting here thinking, it's like, okay, the transfer portal is coming to an end. Late signing day is February 1st. So from there, you got 3 weeks until baseball season. You know, I like baseball. I really enjoy doing it, but it doesn't turn the dial. And we're going to absolutely cover it, but it doesn't turn the dial like football does. And basketball, poor thing. I feel terrible for Tim Thomas, who will be on the we're interviewing him tomorrow about the last 2 games this week. But I was like, oh my goodness, what are we going to talk about? Well, I know what we're going to talk about now. We're going to talk about the quarterback competition until September. And I mean, that's just kind of where we are right now. How you doing, Tom?
Doing fine,
Yeah.
man.
I just think this was explaining. It's like, yeah, we've got our content basically programmed until football season.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, Steve, 2 thoughts on a QB
Okay.
situation. Number one, I'm thinking maybe Sanders came because he wants tutelage for Kiffin and, to try, make it to the combine a year from now. And then second, how do you feel? How do you think Dart is taking this?
I think, okay, look at it like this. Dart is essentially like Little Mac from Mike Tyson's Punch Out. And he has battled Piston Honda and won that against Keaton Slovis at USC. Then he beat Bald Bull against Luke Altmaier. And now he's got the final boss. He's got Mike Tyson. If he can beat Spencer Sanders, he is going to win the game. And he absolutely has the potential to win this. There's some tweaks he needs to make and some stuff he needs to do, but he can absolutely make the jump to win this. Because if not, Spencer Sanders is going to do it. And I think the idea, and this is just me talking, I think the idea is a competition that is essentially Spencer Sanders and Jackson Dart. The winner is going to be the starting quarterback. The second team quarterback is going to be Walker Howard, and whoever loses the job will be the third team. Because I think they're going to try and get Walker Howard as many reps as possible because they view it, whoever wins this job is not going to be around next year. Either it's Jackson Dart going to the pros or Spencer Sanders graduating.
So you don't think Dart's taking this personal? Do you think Kiffin maybe sat down with him and said, "Hey, listen, I just want you to know what we're doing on the recruiting
Well,
battle," or just Kiffin went and did his thing and didn't even speak to him?
well, this is one thing everybody needs to understand, and they don't do it. Whenever I worked for Orgeron, and the reason I bring that up is because Orgeron and Kiffin run their programs the same way. It's based off the Pete Carroll model. 90% of everything Lane Kiffin does is based off of what Pete Carroll did at USC. Everything is built that way. So that's one of the reasons I got into this, because I was recognizing what was happening. And I could understand it. And the number one tenet in that program is competition. And they pound competition into the kid's head every single day. So I think that Jackson Dart isn't thinking anything about it. I think it's just another day. He just has a job he needs to go win because competition is so held in such a high esteem.
Well, and as we know, at the elite
Mm-hmm.
programs, that's the way it
Yeah.
is. So,
And we'll see exactly what happens. I am just crazy interesting. I watched 4 games today of Spencer Sanders at Oklahoma State. I saw him play TCU. I saw him play Baylor. I think a Texas Tech game, and I saw him play Devin. And statistically, Jackson Dart and Spencer Sanders are the same quarterback. Their numbers are uncannily similar. But if you watch them, they go about playing the game a different way. So stylistically, it might look a little different when Spencer Sanders is in the game, but the production, if it stays the same, will be what we're familiar with. But he is a twitchy read option type player, and he's unbelievably good in the pocket. And whenever you look, it's like, what are these guys' strengths? What's Jackson Dart's strength? What's Spencer Sanders' strength? And the first thing you think of is their legs. And I think that's a problem to Lane Kiffin. He wants them to think of something else. He would rather, I think, them be known as just game managers than the legs be the first thing you think of. And I think that's the reason he just decided to basically, like a Yahtzee cup, put all these quarterbacks in a room and let's just see what comes out.
The thing I like the most about it is that anybody that's been an Ole Miss fan for a long time, uh, we've always been on pins and needles, hoping that our quarterback doesn't get hurt, because usually there's a huge drop off if that happens. And for the first time in a very long time, actually, we've probably got the best quarterback room we've had since the early
Probably
'60s, in my
probably since
opinion.
Glenn Griffin and what was it, Bobby Franklin, those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. In modern football, Ole Miss hasn't had a quarterback room like this. They've not even anywhere close. They've had good players like Rush Yowes and Tom Luke they're good players. Eli Manning and Romero Miller, that was probably above average players. You know,
Hmm.
Matt Corral, Luke Altmaier, yeah, I can see it. But this is a different thing. Having a Gatorade National Player of the Year starting, a 5-star backing him up, and a 4-year starter competing for the job, that's new territory.
On the subject of receivers, it looks like to me 15% of the roster's receivers. How in the world do you keep all of them happy?
You don't. You don't. 15% of the roster was receivers last year. I think it's one of those things where you just put a bunch in there, and there are going to be some guys simmer to the top. Like nobody would have thought Dayton Wade would have been one of our most productive wide receivers last year, but he was. And also, I think Dayton Wade is destined for the slot. I have a theory also that 12 personnel, Michael Trigg is going to be playing some slot as the season goes on. You're going to have him and Prescorn played at the same time. That's my thought.
Well, it's like you said, the middle field was not utilized this past season, and I couldn't help but think when I watched the San Francisco game, watching Purdy use the middle of the field, how we need to be doing that.
Oh, yeah. You take our offense and you take away the element, and we couldn't run the jet sweeps last year because of the center exchange. So that is preventing linebackers from going left to right immediately. You weren't throwing the ball over the middle of the field because potentially, I don't know this to be true, but potentially a quarterback was not seeing linebackers. I think they called the game that way played because they were scared. And you take that away, that you don't have linebackers that need to go backwards. So there's no false step going to the side. There's no false step going backwards, and they can just tee off to the line of scrimmage. And you saw Texas Tech in that bowl game. The linebackers and everybody was just teeing off on the run game because they didn't have to worry about anything else. And if you can open up this, the pieces are in this offense for it to be an elite, like Tennessee level offense. But the quarterback has to distribute the ball and run it correctly. The weapons are in place, that's probably why we have 3 quarterbacks going through this competition.
Be interesting to see how the new O-line coach gets the center exchange corrected.
Yeah, that is what I'm really curious about. That one I'm really curious by.
Yeah, I know Caleb got better towards the end of the year with the snap, but he's not a true center. We really don't have a true center on the roster. I don't know. Somebody mentioned, and it may have been on this space or I don't know. Somebody mentioned that Bryson Sanders may come in, and that may be his role going forward. It may be a center prospect.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Maybe this kid from California that's coming in, maybe he is an interior offensive lineman that can provide some depth.
Mm. I hope so. 'Cause I have faith that they saw the issues last year with the snap as well. They know that's one of the big things that need correcting. I would argue probably the biggest thing that needed correcting on our offense was center snap and a blocking tight end that can catch the ball.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Michigan Panthers
Hey, Owen, can you hear me?
home in 2023 to play here
Yeah, I
at
can hear
Ford
you.
Field.
Okay, what you got, bud?
So I'm a student almost right now. I write for the Daily Mississippi. That's the
Yeah.
paper. And I wanted to talk about your quarterbacks thing a little earlier. You said of the three guys you have now, only one of them will be here next year.
No, that's not what I said.
Right?
No.
Okay.
I was making
think
history by announcing that the Michigan
loser of the
Panthers have
quarterback battle
returned
is going
home
to
in
drop down to third
2023
quarterback.
to play
I think
here
Walker
at
Howard
Ford
is
Field.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And
So then,
go ahead.
go ahead.
No.
Oh, so if Spencer Sanders wins, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I haven't really thought all this through
Right.
yet. But if he wins this year, right? He's gone after this year no matter what. And there's sort of something itching at me that says, like, wouldn't it be better to just have one of the younger guys play, whether it's Howard or Dart? Because I don't think next year, not next season after, we'll still have Judkins, we'll still have the transfer receiver from A&M, right? We'll still have a bunch of young skilled players who have been developing. And I think it could be really valuable for next year to build that chemistry with the quarterback and those skill guys. And then, because I don't think Sanders is really a quarterback. He's a good player. Obviously, he's been productive at Oklahoma State for years now. But I don't think he's a guy that you look at and go, okay, next year he can bring us to great things.
Well, I don't know if Kiffin ever looks at next year, if that makes sense. Whenever you do it, it's like the 2023 team, the 2024 team. But I get your point. But I think that Dart and Sanders, it will be kind of irrelevant because in the end, I think they want this to be Walker Howard's team. So they're going to spend the next year just getting him ready.
That's probably going to end up being right. I mean, he is the most talented. At least the if you look at it in a vacuum, he's the most talented guy on the roster.
Yeah, he's potentially the most talented player we've signed.
So, Steven,
Yeah.
you're saying that regardless of what happens this year, assuming Dart's on the team next year, that Howard will beat out Dart next year?
I think the idea that the worst case scenario, I think the situation that Lane Kiffin absolutely doesn't want to happen, and this is just me talking, is for Lane or Jackson Dart to win the job and have an average season.
He doesn't want another 8-4 season. That's
yeah,
for sure.
and he doesn't want Jackson Dart. He wants Jackson Dart. If he wins the job, he wants 3,500 yards, 25 touchdowns, and 6 picks. Go pro.
Get back.
I think in his perfect world, whoever is the quarterback this year is not the quarterback next year.
You need to go pee-pee?
Well, if Dart doesn't win the quarterback battle this year, there's no way he'll be going pro after next
If
year.
he doesn't win the quarterback battle this year, he's probably going to end up transferring.
Will he have to sit here because of the deal you're only allowed once?
Potentially, but if for whatever reason.
He could be a grad
Yeah.
transfer. He could be a grad.
Yeah, grad transfer, you can just go at any time, and it all depends on how close he is to graduating. Now, I don't know what that is because when he was at SC, they were on the quarter system, which means his normal count isn't exactly what you would think it would be. So I'm not sure there.
I've got a different perspective. I think Dart's going to win the job. I think Sanders is insurance, and then I think, of course, I do agree that Howard is our future. But I really think that what happened, at least what I've seen on the internet, is Sanders went into the portal. Uh, then somebody came up with money to get him back to state, and Gundy said, "Nah, that's all right. I don't want him." So I think Sanders was looking for a team, and I think we just snatched him up because if Dart does get hurt, we've got Sanders, right? So, but that's just my
Yeah,
perspective. I've watched both of them play, and they're both good. But I just think that Sanders coming in and just coming in and getting used to the system, I think it's Dart's job to lose.
absolutely. He is what Luke Altmaier had going into last spring. It's up to Jackson Dart. He can win this job this spring, but he can't lose this job this spring. If that makes sense. But
Yeah,
the longer this goes on, and it's almost my opinion, where if it hits August 25th, like game week, just name Walker Howard and let's go. If it's that close, let's just go. You know. All right, Michael, what you got, bud?
Hey, Steven. How you
Good,
doing?
man.
Good to hear. I know this is Locked On Ole Miss podcast, but I was just curious your thoughts on who do you think Alabama might target for their next offensive
The
coordinator?
weirdest thing, you're starting to see a whole lot of smoke around Jeff Lebby, and I just can't figure out how Nick Saban would allow a Jeff Lebby to kind of run stuff. And that would like go against completely what I was thinking about. I was expecting somebody in the vein of Todd Monken, not him exactly, but somebody that runs an offense similar to Barry Pro style. But if it's Jeff Lebby, I mean, we'll see. That's out, right?
Who is Levy's agent?
I don't know, but
Is it what's his name? Oh, come on, Kiffin's agent.
Jimmy
From
Sexton.
Brain Dead. If it's Sexton, he may be the one putting that out there on the internet to get him more money at Oklahoma.
It'd be interesting. Rebel's dad, what you got, bud?
Two things. One, yeah, there's a lot of smoke going around on Jeff Levy, but a lot of it's starting to pick up around Dan Mullen again for the OC for Alabama. Then, second, when it comes to the quarterback situation, like you said, Kiffin's doing a year-by-year team,
No.
but I think he's
Don't
playing a
start that
game of
crap.
checkers and chess at the same time right
Okay.
now. Yeah, he's building out the team for this year because he needs to have a much better season than he did last year. But you look at a lot of the guys he's pulling in, these are guys that are still going to have some longevity for the next season, possibly the season after that. And like, what was it? Owen was talking about building that chemistry for next year. What happens next year? We're going into the 12-team playoff. I think he's making a shot for being within that top 10 next year to get into that playoff with a lot of these guys that he's bringing in right now.
Yeah,
And that's just my thought on it.
a lot of that makes sense, man, and a lot of that makes sense. We got a little.
That would make that's probably why I hired Golding. And if you look at all the scholarships that are being offered right now for 24, most of them are defensive.
Yeah, right now it's crazy the amount of defensive linemen they're offering. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's nuts.
Like I said, a good, solid season this year would have huge implications for bringing in an even better team to make that build out for next year.
Yeah, I'm curious to see with late signing day Tomorrow we have John Garcia on the show, and he talks about Chimdiano, because that's really, I think, Ole Miss's only late signee potential offensive lineman out of the Northeast. It's either Ole Miss, Michigan State, or Penn State, and we'll see how that goes. But it's kind of winding down as the drop ad gets a little closer. We'll see what's going on there. Joey Freshwater is in the house. How we doing, bud?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Steven?
I'm doing quite well, man.
Good, good. Got a couple of things to touch on. Honestly, with all the conversation we've been having, probably three or four. First, let's start with the playoffs, the 12-team playoffs. I talked to, I was thinking it was next year, but I asked a couple of buddies, and they said it would be the following
It's the
year.
year after.
It's okay, so it is the year after. Okay, just wanted to make sure on that. And then the next thing was, I also think that I think Dart's going to have a big year too. And I know you kind of mentioned, he's in the same position as Luke Altmaier was this year,
Mhm.
but he's bigger, fast. I mean, I'm not saying he's faster, but he can run the ball. He's got a lot more live arm. I think Dart's going to win the job pretty clearly, and Howard's going to be his backup. Maybe a little, little red zone action with Spencer Sanders. But lastly, do we know if Coach Garrison's got another year? Because he's bigger than our UAB offensive lineman we just
Yeah,
got.
he was
And
a Nebraska offensive lineman, so he could probably play.
yeah, he's huge, and he was a center, so maybe he can get the snaps down
Yeah.
for our centers. But lastly, just one last thing. Uh, if y'all hadn't seen I forgot his name, the commit we just got from JUCO yesterday. Is it Mana?
The Samoan guy, I don't want to dare try to pronounce it because I'll screw it up until I hear it. I know who you're talking about.
I don't know what exactly it is, but hey, y'all need to check out. Make sure you don't click on his high school highlights, but make sure y'all check out his huddle highlights from JUCO this year. It's game by game instead of a full season highlights. But y'all check it out. Just check out the top game, and he dominates. He's gonna be good, at least good depth.
Is he interior or exterior offensive line? Is he tackle or guard?
And that he was playing in JUCO, he was playing left tackle.
Okay.
Of course, he's 6'4.5",
Yeah.
6'5", and SEC. That's kind of on the verge. So, but he could. I think he at left tackle. He was making some pulls around to the right side, and he was. I was impressed. I was more impressed after I watched the highlights, and I was like, man, this is a good pickup.
Yeah, whenever you see that, you're like, okay, what's going on with this? Is he like a closet center that we haven't heard about? But if he can play, he can play. I don't know much about him, but
well, y'all should, like I said, just check out his highlights. I was impressed.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome, bro.
Want to cut Medicare. None of us support cutting Medicare benefits, but they actually did it. Again, absolutely not. And the Democrats just cut $280 billion. All Democrats
anybody have
in
the
the
score of the
Senate
basketball
now going
game?
to cut $280 billion out of Medicare just 2 months ago.
Just want to correct the record.
They were down at half. That's all I
Yeah,
know.
that's the last. That's the last. That's whenever we started this.
Didn't cut Medicare benefits.
So it was like
allowed
47,
for
41 at
negotiation
half.
for
They're
prescription
down
drug
9
prices,
right now.
which would
Yeah, they're
ultimately
down
bring
9.
down the price
Yeah,
of the cost
it's
for
amazing.
Medicare consumers. But I want to ask the next
Honestly, I
question,
didn't
which is
think without Matthew Morrell, I didn't know they'd hit 40, but they hit 40 in the first half.
They did in
Like,
September.
what's going on?
And who cut Medicare is the Democrats.
It's a lot better than the 17 they were down before. They made up a little bit of ground.
By the way, if anybody wants to feel better about basketball, check out the LSU Arkansas score right now. I think Arkansas is winning by 30. It was like 40-11 last I saw.
It's crazy how good Mississippi State and LSU were looking at the beginning of the year versus their starts in this SEC season.
Yeah, absolutely nuts.
Is there any way Kermit survives?
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't know if there's enough
No.
wins on the schedule for him to survive. The Ole Miss could very well be about to throw up like a 13-18.
Can Keith Carter coach and be the athletic director?
Can he shoot? Does he have a year of eligibility is my question.
That's right. That's right.
Good grief.
Hey, I was thinking that about Coach Garrison. Like I said, does he have a COVID year?
Absolutely nuts. It was funny. You saw that. I saw that pic just like you're talking about, with like John Garrison sitting next to an offensive lineman, and he just dwarfed that guy that's obviously 290 pounds. It's like, dang. Okay, note to self: do not piss that man off.
That's right. Hey, that's likely that was Quincy McGee, if I remember correctly. That's.
So,
I mean, I'm not saying he's going to start this year, but he's going to be playing. He's. I live in Birmingham, and I kind of I go to some UAB games, and I kind of watch. You know, I watched the offensive line a little bit, and he looked pretty good the 3 games I went to. I'll be honest with you. Of course, I didn't play in college or in the NFL or coach in college or in the NFL, but I think he's going to be a good depth piece.
yeah, yeah. The I think the main thing that we need to do, and this is going to be part of this quarterback competition, is the RPOs. The quarterback can't hold the ball because the offensive lineman. This is a little known fact. What's going on? The offensive lineman's run blocking on every play. That's the reason when the quarterback holds the ball too long, it's easy to shed and there's always pressure, and the quarterback's taking all these hits. And I think it's because he's just holding the ball, or maybe they're running second and third level RPOs, which is taking a little bit longer to develop. And it's not like a traditional pass set like you might think of what Laramie Tunsil was doing when he was at Ole Miss. They're run blocking, they're zone blocking. So, I mean, we'll see exactly what they do. Maybe they pass block a little bit more. Maybe they run block a little bit more. But it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens on the offensive line, protection wise, what Garrison brings to the table.
Is it true that did Kiffin try to bring in Garrison when he came to Ole Miss? Like I read on the message
Yeah,
boards.
I heard that as well. I do not know. Um,
Okay.
Now, it's one of those things. Okay, whenever Lane Kiffin gets to a new location, traditionally he has stocked that team with Baylor coaches for the install to put in the operational stuff, all the tempo stuff the Baylor guys do, because I guess they have a pretty good system of doing it. Okay. Then he just kind of shoves them out the door, shoos them off. If everybody remembers, the first year, 3 of those Baylor coaches, Joe John Finley, Randy Clements, and Jeff Levy, were here. After the first year, Randy Clements and Joe John Finley, they were gone. And after the second year, Jeff Levy left. And then you just like FAU, you kind of do your own thing. He does his own thing once it's all put in. So,
Right. And it seemed like Finley, if I remember correctly, he had a better, or not better. I don't say better, but didn't he play at Texas A&M or something, or Oklahoma? Which he went to one of them, didn't he?
Oh, he both him and Levy, I think, went back to Oklahoma.
Oh,
Went
okay.
back to
He
their
did.
alma
Okay,
mater.
but yeah. Because I couldn't remember. I thought for some reason I was thinking Finley played at Texas A&M, but maybe he coached. No, he coached there before he came to us.
Yes.
That's right. Okay.
So, I mean, we'll see exactly what is going to go on with them. I mean, they've got pieces in place. People are going to tell you they're about all this roster construction and all of it. It's kind of excuses at this point.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we
Right.
just need to do it and execute at a really high level. And if we don't make it, we just didn't make it at this point. Kind of
Yeah.
is what it is. By the way,
switching over. Go ahead.
I
I'm
was just
sorry.
going to let everybody know my polos that I've been promising that I was getting to give away, and for my contributors came in today. My Locked On Ole Miss podcast polos. So we will think of clever ways to distribute to you guys after the contributors get theirs, and they're pretty nice actually. Yeah, it's not really Ole Miss related. That's kind of me related.
How about some defense, man?
Yeah, Igbinosin and our new cornerbacks coach is what I was about to bring up. Y'all go ahead. Y'all talk about it.
Yeah, I think gone, man.
Yeah, I think Davison and Tashim's
I
gone.
think he's gone too. I know Tashim's gone, but my Tennessee buddy keeps saying that he's going there. Is that where y'all are hearing?
I'm gonna be honest. Whenever I don't pay attention to where kids are going, if they're leaving Ole Miss, that's really that's what all I try to confirm is whether or not they're leaving. Wherever they go, it doesn't matter. Because whenever this transfer portal, and this is what everybody needs, when they see Tysheem and Davidson, they think of potential where they could be. And we would do the same thing. We're doing the same thing with Chris Marshall coming over here. So I'm not saying we're any better. But the actual production that you're losing is what people should pay attention to in the transfer portal and people that are leaving. I mean, it needs to be an actual production thing. Now, Davidson could be a lockdown great cornerback. I'm not saying he can't. But at Ole Miss last year, he was a 8-game starter, 9-game starter with like 3 pass defended.
Yeah. Right. And I agree with that completely. But my dad just randomly, he's like, well, Tysheem Johnson had 72 tackles this year. And I was like, Dad, it seemed like he might have, from freshman year to sophomore year throughout the year kind of regressed. But he did have a lot of tackles, but it seemed like he missed a lot.
Well, yeah, and him
So
playing box safety, he had to make a lot of tackles. It wasn't like a normal safety
Right.
playing off the line of scrimmage. He was doing something real similar to Jake Springer. He was part of that physics problem that I always talk about.
Man, I miss Jake Springer. I miss Cody Pruitt, and I miss Mike Hilton.
Oh, everybody misses Mike Hilton. Oh, man. But Suntarian coming. He'll be here in 6 months.
Yeah.
Has anybody, hey, Stephen, have you looked at the numbers? Because based on the numbers that we've had in the portal combined with the graduates, it looks like we're going to be way below 85.
And I don't know if that is actually the case. Okay. The number count that they're doing is thrown off by that dang COVID year. So you're not sure. You can't sign something if somebody is already there and that scholarship is spoken for. So before the season started, after the kids that graduated and everything, our scholarship number was at like 2 or 3 that we had available for this year. With all the people, that's the reason so many people had to transfer out. It's because we were so tightened up, because whenever we got in the transfer portal last year, we were signing 2- and 3-year guys. So I don't know if that number is very cut and dry, and I think they're going to be close to at least 80. Now, I think they're going to sign some guys in the late period in May.
Right.
And they're saving some spots for that. But I think they're going to have 5 left or so, and they're just going to give those to walk-ons that are like Dayton Wade's going to get one or something like that. So they're going to end up close to 85. But like I said, it's weird whenever you try to calculate the years, because somebody could be listed as a redshirt senior, and he's actually a redshirt junior because he has that extra year. Yeah,
Gotcha.
It's weird. Well, we've gone over our half hour. I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. Tomorrow we're going to do the show is going to be basically handicapping the quarterback competition. Who's the strengths that they have and what positions and what we expect to happen. And we talk about the 2 things that Ole Miss must do to win 10 games next year. These 2 things, they're non-negotiable. And then we have John Garcia to come in to talk about late signing day. He also talks about Keeter Toscano and his opinion of the quarterback room as well. He'll talk about that. But anyway, thank you guys very much for tuning in. If you got in here late and you want to replay, you can catch the replay on Thursday night. We're going to put the replay up Thursday night. And from there, we'll be able to rock on. But
Hey, Stephen, I think we all want to wish Tom the best. We're all rooting for you, buddy.
yes.
Oh, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Good old Tom. But thanks everybody for listening, and tune in tomorrow night to SEC After Dark on the All's Conference Network YouTube page. That's the one with me, Corey, Jake, and Jeb, and we'll talk a little bit Ole Miss there, along with the Alabama search and stuff like that. So we'll see you later, guys.